Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hockey Writers Fantasy Forecheck podcast. As always, I am your host, Jacob Strozyk.
And I'm here as always as Jacob Billington.
And as usual, we're going to be going through this week's fantasy trends, players to drop, pick up, sit, start, and teams that you should be watching for any general fantasy impact, and teams that you should be avoiding picking up players from as well. Before we go into anything else, we're going to start with our question of the week, which I think is kind of a fun one considering it's the start of the year. When you find a young player isn't performing well, do you still put them in your lineup for hopes that they just get sparked and produced like you assume they would? Or do you sit them for a veteran that you feel you might have a little bit more confidence in?
Yeah, I usually wait until they start producing a bit more to put them in. Obviously, it depends on how your roster is. Sometimes you only have the bare minimum forwards or defensemen, whatever. But if somebody's struggling to produce, I'll leave them on the bench and wait for them to get that 2 point game really start getting to go.
So you wouldn't. So even if you say let's use Bedard as a big hypothetical, would you still sit him in favor of someone that might be a little bit more of a veteran comparatively?
Well, it all depends. So if I've got Marcus Foligno in my lineup, I'm going to keep Bedard instead of him. Even
Yeah.
though Foligno's having a great year.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like Nazem Kadri, who also is not having the best start to the year, I might put Kadri in over Bedard if they're both at the same level of kind of nobody's really performing right now. But yeah, and part of that is because once the Flames start clicking, they have all the talent to really be a good team. Chicago doesn't. So I believe in Calgary more than Chicago right now, and that's the biggest part of it.
Okay, fair enough. And I mainly ask because I have a few young players on my other league that isn't our hockey writers one, and
Yes.
I've been bitten a couple times when I'm like, all right, sit Fantilli, play somebody else, and then he scores 2 points, and I'm like, okay, play him, and then he doesn't score a couple of points. So I'd like to see if somebody else has a different mentality to deal with that type of a situation.
See, and that's why I like to stay away from the young guys because there's no consistency with them. So, like, even Bedard, he might score 40 goals this year. I don't know, but he doesn't have that consistency yet. It might be in a 60 game span, and then 20 games, he does nothing. So,
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying it's
yeah.
as someone who's dealing with it, it can get a little frustrating. Well, let's talk about players that don't frustrate us. Let's do some uptrend players that are kind of on some hot streaks, some players that might not be rostered at 100% or even at like 90% that you can pick up. You got anybody that really stood out to you in the past week?
Yeah, I'll start with Luke Hughes. He's got the game isn't over yet, but between the last two games and the first two periods of tonight's game, he's currently sitting with 5 assists in his last three games. He's doing fantastic. Another 2 point night tonight. He's really working his way up that lineup on the Devils, and there's so much offense on the Devils, and Tyler Toffoli looks fantastic. So there's just so much goal scoring to go around on that team, and with his talents, like it's impossible not to have faith in picking him up if you have the chance to. He's rostered at 77% on Yahoo right now. So good chance he's not available in most of your leagues, but have a look. He is worth picking up right now.
Yeah, you mentioned Toffoli, who was somebody that I was going to kind of put into this uptrend category, but most of the things that I've seen, he's rostered at like 85 to almost 90% of leagues at this point. So I don't think he's really available for any sort of pickup. But if you got him, good on you for thinking about it before anybody else, because he did this a bunch of times in Calgary last year too, where he just had some big scoring streaks. And I think he's fitting in really well with the Devils there. Just as that quick side note, I like Luke Hughes. I am disappointed I wasn't able to get him in either of my leagues so far. I missed him just by a little bit in my keeper league. So I'm a little bit frustrated about it because I was like, he's going to have a really good year at that Devils team. They're just so fun to watch. All right. First one up on my list, I want to talk about Cam Atkinson. Over the years, he's been, up, down, up, down, up, down as far as his fantasy performance goes. But I like where he's at right now. He's got 5 points in his last three games, And the Flyers aren't really that bad of a team right now. So as he keeps rolling, they'll keep rolling. I think he'll still rake in a couple more points. Um, I'm not sure if he's going to make it like a 10, 15 game, point streak or something like that. But I think he'll throw an assist in there, throwing in a couple goals. He's a goal scorer first, in my opinion. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him, toss in a hat trick in the next probably 10, 15 games either.
Yeah, I really like him. He's great, and like you said, he's been up, down, up, down, up, down in terms of fantasy. But he's one of the few players that really knows John Tortorella, played with him in Columbus as well. And there hasn't been any issues, at least that we can see on the outside, between him and the coach. And that's kind of the big thing when you're looking at picking up a Flyers player. I wonder how many people drafted Morgan Frost, who's been scratched for 5 games in a row now, which is
Mm-hmm.
insane. So yeah, the coach is a huge wild card with that. Obviously, once the team starts to kind of flounder a bit, all the players are too. I talked about it last week with Travis Sanheim. I'm a huge fan of him so far this year. He's been one of my best players, especially on the back end. But anything can happen at any time with the Flyers. So I would look at him as a short term position, maybe like 20 games and then drop him. That's how I would look at that.
No, I agree with you. Just a good somebody to kind of fill in that spot, get you
Yeah.
those couple extra points. Or if you need a little extra goal support in your category leagues, he's somebody that can give you a boost there throughout the week. I got a couple more. Who do you got?
I only have two for this one. So my second one is Ryan Strome. He's
Okay.
been playing fantastic in Anaheim. He's got 7 points, two of them being goals in his last 4 games. And he's only rostered at, I think it was 13%. I was just looking before we hopped on here. If you can snag him, absolutely do it. I trust that you're not going to steal him from me tonight, but I used all my ads for this week. So I have to wait till tomorrow to pick him up. But I just noticed him sitting there on the waiver wire, and I'm like, really? Like, he's been doing pretty good. And um, yeah, and I was amazed to see he's only at 13%. So
If it makes you feel any better, I used all my ads for this week too, so I can't take them away from you. So
perfect.
I will leave them to you out of respect for your choice. I won't pick them up. I promise. I can't guarantee what the other midnight 2 a.m. snagging people are going to do.
Yeah.
But either way, I'm going to piggyback off of your Anaheim topic. I want to throw in Frank Vatrano.
Yeah.
Dude got another hat trick. He has 8 goals in 8 games. I'll be honest, I didn't have that in my bingo card to start the season, but I am absolutely here for it. I have always liked Vatrano, no matter where he's played. I think he's just a cool player to watch. He's a very hardworking player,
Yeah.
and it's nice to see him get that little extra success. And he's playing those top end minutes, and he's thriving in those top minutes. At this point, I'm not saying he's a pick up and drop candidate. I'm saying pick him up and let it ride at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 8 goals in 8 games isn't something that's going to last forever. But I don't think he's going to slow down. He's shown to be a good player. Like, he can be a 40-point player. He did it in Anaheim last year. He did it in, was it Florida or Boston that he got his 40 points? I don't know. But
Pretty sure it was Florida.
it's not like he's never hit 40 points or anything.
Yeah.
And he's not old yet. He's 29. So it's not very common to see a player take that next step at this age, but it's not unheard of either. Like, some players do kind of find their game this late in their development and whatever. I think that it could be a huge stepping stone for him, and I think that he could build off this for the rest of the year and moving forward.
Yeah, I think he could probably finish above that 40 mark. I bet you he finishes in that almost 60 mark if he just keeps up the not necessarily the goal scoring pace, but just his overall production pace. Goal scoring, I think he's somewhere in the 30 to maybe 35 range if he, just keeps putting up decent amount of goals throughout the next, couple of months. But
Yeah.
hey, who knows? Maybe he could be 40. That would be fun to watch. Frank Vatrano scoring 40 goals in Anaheim. That could be interesting.
Well, I mean, look at Carter Verhaeghe. Like, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Verhaeghe's a bit younger, but not by much. Like, it's the exact same kind
Yeah.
of situation. It's just somebody comes out of nowhere and Like I said, just that later development path, and who knows?
Yeah, sometimes it works. You say you got nobody else, so I'll just kind of jump into my next one. I have Nick Schmaltz.
Yeah,
I flip flop on him every year in fantasy because he has good streaks and then he has nothing streaks. And I don't know where to find the balance of picking him up and not picking him up because I'm always wrong every single time I try to pick him
yeah,
up myself. And then he just goes on a cold streak. But right now, he's on a bit of a hot streak. He's got 5 points in his last 4 games. He's also on a 4 game point streak. Could be the time to snatch him up if you believe that he can continue to maintain that pace for another, I'd say 3, 4, 5 games at the very max. I'm not sure if he'll keep it up beyond that, but Arizona doesn't look that bad this year. So I wouldn't put it past him to be able to actually accomplish something like that.
yeah. I did have him at the start of the year, and I believe it was the same trade that I traded away Sam Reinhart, unfortunately.
Oof.
And it was before the season even really started. Just positionally, I needed to make a change. So did the other manager. So it wasn't. It was a pretty even value trade for day one of the season. It was more so just the position swap. I wasn't giving up on him. I really like Schmaltz, but another one that bit me on a trade on an early trade. And I'm not usually one to make those early trades, but again, it made sense positionally for me and the other manager, and it's really biting me. And I learned my lesson.
Yeah, we've had just as a mini sidetrack here, we've had a lot of trades going on this year,
Yeah,
especially comparative to last year. There were what, maybe 4 total all last season?
there was a lot of waiver movement last year, but there was no
Yeah.
really active in our chat.
There was half the amount of teams, and this year there's just so many more teams, and there's a lot more trades going on. I'm here for it. I like the movement. I think it's fun.
I really like it too. I want to see all 17 teams trading except for me. I usually lose the trade somehow.
You just
And
made
it
another
could
one, didn't you?
not yet. Oh, yes, I did actually.
You got Russ, didn't you?
Yeah, I had too many centers and I traded who did I trade? Chandler Stevenson for Brian Rust, I believe. So yeah, it was pretty good, and I did that because I figured I had an open spot that I could pick up Paul Cotter, who actually I'll mention him with the pickups. He's had a great start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, just I'll throw that one in really quick, and another one did pop into my mind that I'll get to when we're done this little conversation. But yeah, like I love seeing all the movement. It's a lot of fun because it shows that everybody's active and really staying invested in the league.
Yeah, that's the best part about something like that. All right. Well, you say you had somebody in mind that popped in your head. Go ahead, throw it in there. What you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw in Ridley Greig. I assume most people
Okay.
have caught on already, but Ottawa Senators, he's playing the third line center, flip flopping between third and second line, depending on how they ice the practice lines. But he's up to 7 points in 8 games. He had a multi point game for the first time in his career last night or 2 nights ago. Um, and yeah, he's been playing fantastic. He's leading the rookie class in points. I didn't check his Yahoo page before we started recording, but I'm sure he's not very highly rostered right now. So definitely try and pick him up. I think he's listed as just a center, which is a little bit tough because a lot of people have their center spots filled up. But if you have room for him, absolutely pick him up.
Yeah, I'm trying to find him. My app is taking absolutely forever to load right now. He's got to be in the pickup section. Grig, right? No,
Yeah,
Grei.
he's on waivers
He's
right now.
rostered at 5%.
Yeah, and that's +2 in the past week. So he is listed just at center. I don't know who dropped him yesterday, but
Yeah, no,
I
he's
wouldn't
listed
have.
at just center. Last week, he had a goal, 2 assists, +2, 7 shots, 7 hits, 2 blocks.
Yeah,
On the season, he's 2 goals, 5 assists, +7, 18 shots, 14 hits, 3 blocks. So he's productive as heck right now,
yeah,
especially as far as last week is concerned. Hot,
he's gonna
hot.
get
Love to
you a
see
bit of.
that. All right. I have one more on my list, and that's Jaden Schwartz from Seattle. He's got 4 points in his last 3 games. He's
Playing a lot of
also,
minutes.
yeah, I was gonna say he's playing a lot of minutes. He's getting a lot of opportunity in Seattle right now, and they're not doing great, but they're not doing terrible either
Yeah.
at the moment. So there's potential for even more. And what's nice about Schwartz is he's listed as center and left wing, so you get a multi-purpose player there, and that's something that can add a heck of a lot of value from somebody who's shooting the puck a lot as well.
Yeah, I like Schwartz. He's always been like a really kind of underrated, just I don't know, like a perfect middle six player that you always want on your team. You're always kind of hearing about once in a while, but definitely flies under the radar in terms of fantasy.
Yeah, I've had him in the past, and he's been a boom or bust for me, but I'm riding the train. I picked him up in one league. I might pick him up in my other league too. We will see. We will
Good.
see.
He
All right.
rostered at 8% right now, +5 in the past week. Yeah, he's doing
Yeah, he's
good.
rostered about 50 something percent in on ESPN. So not super high. He's definitely someone that you could still grab.
Yeah,
Okay. I have some downtrend players. I have three in mind. How many you got?
I also have three.
Okay. Start us off hot.
Connor Brown, dump him. He's not getting much
Dump
of
him.
an opportunity anymore. He kind of lost that, and it's kind of all of Edmonton right now. I'm sure in 3 weeks I'm gonna be saying, all right, now pick him back up. Like once he gets going, I think he'll be fine. He missed almost all of last season. He's definitely got some rust in his joints, and he's having a tough time getting going. But he's got no points in 8 games. There's nothing else to be said about that.
Yeah. Edmonton is unfortunately just miserable right now. We've talked about it for the past couple of weeks, so I'm not gonna really hammer home on it. It's just understood at this point. Yeah, if you're not scoring points, you're not doing anything. It's not worth it. I agree. Drop hard.
Yeah.
Another drop hard player for me, JT Compher. After a bit of a decent start with Detroit, he's got 0 points in his last 6 games. So cold as ever. He's dropping a little bit in ice time too. I I wouldn't completely avoid him. If you're in, super deep leagues, you might want to uh sit if there's no good pickup available. Like if you can't swap maybe uh Compher for somebody like Schwartz or Schmaltz, then maybe just bench him. But all in all, he's a drop sit.
Yeah, I agree. Like he just hasn't been very good for the past week and a half or so. Um, like you said, he got off to a good start, and I'm sure that he will get back to that point. So I don't know about completely just giving up and abandoning ship and dropping. If you have room on your roster to hang on to him, go ahead, leave him on the bench, but don't get too connected because he just hasn't been showing
Who else you
it. My second one is going to be Ilya Samsonov. Pretty easy one.
got?
He's
Yeah.
losing the starter position to Joseph Wall already. I'm sure he's going to bounce back. And right now he's rocking an 841 save percentage and a 3.99 goals against. There's no possible way that that's unsustainably bad. He's going to be back up to around a 900, but right now I would be looking for another goalie. Now, in a league as deep as ours with 18 players or 18 managers, it's hard to come across a goalie. Like there's none on waivers in our league.
Mhm.
Um, so if I had Samsonov in our league, I would see if what I could get for him in a trade, or I would hang on to him. I'm not saying drop him immediately if there's nobody to replace him with, but I would keep him on your bench for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, it's disappointing. He's somebody I kind of pegged to have a big year this year. So I'm personally disappointed, even though I don't have Samsonov in any of my leagues, that he's not performing up to the caliber that I really thought he had the capacity for. You're right. The numbers that he has are just not, they're unsustainably bad. That's a great way to put it. He'll probably jump up to about at least the 909, 906 save percentage and
Yeah.
maybe a 2.8, 2.9 goals against if he's bouncing back hard. But we'll see.
Did you have him in your top 10 goalies when we did that episode?
I don't recall. I'll be
I don't either.
honest.
I wish I did remember because I would
I
be
don't think so. I think he might have been in my top 50 players. I don't know if he was in my top 10 goalies though.
Maybe. I don't know. I was hoping you
We'd have to
remembered,
go
so
back to that.
let you know.
All right. I have for my next one, Ivan Barbashev, another player that I thought was gonna, do a little bit more. But I was also someone who was kind of saying be a little bit hesitant. I'm not sure if he's going to be, up to the playoff points that he was putting up or the pace that he was putting up at the end of last year. So
Yeah.
I think he's still on earth as that, middle six forward. He's getting about 15 minutes of ice time a night, which it's not bad, but he's not producing much with it. He's not really getting any points. He's got a whole 2 points up to this, time in the season. And, it's not terrible, but it's not good either. So he's somebody that isn't necessarily a drop candidate because he still produces in other ways. But if you have a points league as opposed to category league, I would sit him over starting him.
Yeah, I mean, everybody on Vegas is firing on all cylinders except for him right now. I'm sure that he's going to get going. Definitely wouldn't be considering dropping him right now. But again, if you have the room on your roster, hang on to him for a little bit. If not, see if he can get any kind of return. But I do think that he will get hot enough pretty soon. Maybe finish the season with 55 points once he really gets going. So like he is still a good fantasy asset, just off to a very slow start.
Yep. No arguments there.
Yeah. So my last one, I want you to guess. This is the Yahoo roster percentage for Rickard Rakell, who has 1 assist in 8 games.
What's his roster number? Is that what you're asking me?
Yeah, the percentage of rostered with 1 assist.
Plays on Pittsburgh.
And I'll even give you
22%.
So he's been dropped 18% last week.
Ooh.
So does that change your guess?
17%.
53 still.
No way.
Yeah. He was
No
dropped
way.
18% last week and is still 50. That's insane to me. If you have Rickard Rakell on your team, drop him. There's no two ways about it. I mean, I'm looking at his stats right now, and on the season, he has 1 assist. He's a +1. He has 18 shots, 7 hits, and 7 blocks. The shots, hits, and blocks are fine, but no, get rid of him.
So much nothing.
Yeah.
I almost had him on my list, but I was like, somebody else is going to talk about this. Somebody else is going to bring it up.
Yeah.
So yes, drop 100% drop. I'm so sad to see the downfall of Rakell. I think he's still a good player, but man, in fantasy he's nothing right now. Just he's giving nothing. He's not nothing. He's giving nothing right now that's worth actually putting him into a lineup. So I have no qualms with that whatsoever. None. Absolutely none. Last one on my list, I have Hampus Lindholm, which is a shame because last season at this point he was really, really, really going, and he was probably one of the best scoring defensemen in the league. But he's also doing a whole lot of nothing. So it's the same conversation. It's the same exact conversation. So is he a drop candidate? No, he's still, a good defenseman. He'll still get you a couple of shots, a couple of blocks here and there. And he still plays top minutes in Boston. So it's worth, waiting for him to heat up. But as far as what he's doing for now, sit him for somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, he's averaging 24 minutes a game and doesn't have a point yet. That's kind of silly.
Not enough.
No. And I just brought up his stats as well. He's got not very many shots. What's the total here? 13. He's got 2 hits.
He never throws hits.
He doesn't throw hits, but what else? And he's got 11 blocks, so that's not bad.
That's what I'm saying. He'll get you some blocks. It's normally shots and blocks that you get out of his residuals.
Yeah. So I would be hanging on to him, but keeping him off to the side for a little while.
disappointing because
Yeah.
he had so much firepower last year, so it's an absolute shame. Last kind of thing to throw in, this isn't a knock on any specific player or anything else. But as far as teams to avoid and players on those teams to avoid, there's only one team that isn't Edmonton that's in the conversation. It's San Jose right now. It's absolutely miserable there.
Yeah.
0 wins, and they have 1 point. Just avoid every player there at all costs. They have a total of 8 goals in 8 games as a team. You don't pick up the goaltending because they're getting scored on. It's like a minus 24 goal differential right now.
Yeah.
It's a firing squad. Don't, as a Sharks fan, it hurts me, but as a fantasy owner, it hurts me a little bit more to see that happen. So just avoid the Sharks like the plague.
Yeah, they're going to be really good down the road with William Eklund and Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini or Cole Iserman, whoever they end up getting in the draft this year. But
we can only hope.
There's going to be a lot of firepower on that team in like 4 years. But for right now, just stay very far away from them.
Yeah, the goaltending is miserable too. Not that I blame Mackenzie Blackwood. I still think he's a good goaltender, but he's been sent off to basically be executed in San Jose at this point.
Pretty much.
It's really, really sad.
Yeah.
Bet you the Devils wish they held on to him.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Anything else you want to bring up? Anybody else you want to chat about? Burning ideas in your brain?
That's all I got. There's not too bad of a week for me and you were up against each other this week, and
that's right.
You got me. You're up 7-2 now. You have a couple more players playing tonight, and I don't have any. I had no goals this week. I had 5 goals in total. 4 of them were from my defense, and 2 of them were Jacob Chikrin. So, none of my forwards were going at all.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I will definitely be gloating about it all this week, just to remind you that this happened until the next time we play each other, and you can rub it in my face if you beat me.
Yes.
But either way, if you lose this week, where does that put you standings wise? Is it mid or are you towards the...
Let's wrap up the show.
Okay. That's fine. Well, no, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm in 10th right now. I'm 9-11. So this will put me down pretty low, especially because you have those extra players taking the rest of my points.
It's still not bad though. Mid-tier at this point, you can still build up from that. So it's not like you're in a do or die situation.
Yeah, and I think you had 9 more games than I did this week.
Yeah, I had a bunch of people playing this week.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's the way it goes. Can't really control that part. All right. We'll close it out here. Thank you again, everybody, for tuning into this week's episode of Fantasy Forecheck. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your preferred listening channel, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that you subscribe to your podcast, and to the Hockey Writers Podcast itself and YouTube pages, where you can find anything and everything else hockey related. You can always follow me on Twitter at Stro67.
And I'm there at Jacob Billington.
And you can feel free to drop us a like, leave a comment, and we will keep you up to date on all things fantasy throughout the year. Thanks again, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you next time.